Welcome to Virtually Amazing, the podcast for virtual assistants with me, Shelley of Tomorrow's VA, and Jo Brianti of JLB Support Solutions. In each episode, we'll chat about what we're up to and bring you fantastic interviews with guest experts, as well as our App of the Month and top tips, all aimed at helping you to grow your VA business. So grab a cuppa, sit back, and join us for a fun-filled hour. So hi Jo, here we are back again with another episode of Virtually Amazing, the podcast. And it's getting some great traction. We've had some nice comments on LinkedIn, which is really great to see being promoted there, especially since we interviewed Jennifer the other day. And it's just great. So I don't know about you, but I've been just dealing with a podcast recently. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, it's just getting so much traction, so much interest. There are so many people that I'm contacting about coming and joining us and sharing their expertise with the VA community. And then there's all those background tasks that you need to do. So there's the editing, there's the web pages, there's the promotion. There's just so much to do. But it's been a great learning exercise for both of us.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I knew there was a lot of work when I set this up. I had done some research beforehand, and it is a big learning curve. But as we record, we're going to get slicker and smoother.
Yeah, every time.
Definitely. And we've actually taken the opportunity, you may have gathered through some of the other interviews, that we've been using the lockdown period to book out slots and record our guest interviews while people are working remotely, working from home, and maybe have more time in their day to pop in and have a wee chat with us. So we hope that everybody is taking heart from this, and we are wishing everybody well in this difficult time that the world finds itself in at the moment. Where I am in Israel, as I speak today on today's date of recording, it does look like most of our restrictions are going to be lifted because cases are really, really declining, which is fantastic news. So we will be able to get together with, I can't wait to see my kids that live about an hour away from here, and the grandchildren. It'd be lovely to be able to have a hug. But anyway, so we've been learning about recording the podcast, editing the podcast, and creating the web page and show notes, etc. for all of that. And in fact, later on in the series, we've got Sarah Busani coming on, and she does writing as a VA, but one of the things she does is create show notes for podcasts as well. So perhaps we can talk to her about any tips she might have, because obviously as a VA, Jo, you might get asked in the future by other clients if you can support them with their podcast, and you will know firsthand exactly what to do now.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's great to learn new technology. You know me, Shelley, any new tool, and I'm right in there to have a little test and play with.
Yeah, the trouble though, I mean, I'm the same. I love new tools and toys online. I got a new version of Camtasia, which is what I used to record my courses the other day. Camtasia 2020 came out. The problem is that we actually can run after bright shiny objects a lot. We can get that shiny object syndrome, and then that takes us away from our core business. And I often have to stop myself and think, do I really need this shiny toy? Is it going to help my business?
Yes.
To go off and play. I use Appsumo, the site for startups and things, and I've had some really good deals from there. So I do read through, and if Sarah Arrow, who I work with on the blogging side of things and the website side of things, if she recommends something from Appsumo, I generally will get it, but I don't tend to buy everything that's on offer. But for example, when we were talking the other day about Promo Republic, I picked that up on an Appsumo deal, which was amazing because it was lifetime access. And my booking, Book Like a Boss, which is my booking page, so all of our guests will have booked via that. It connects to Zoom, it books in the appointments, connects to my calendar, and it creates a very nice landing page. That was also on a lifetime deal with Book Like a Boss. So sometimes it's good to look out for those deals.
Yeah, I like that idea a huge amount.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got Joanne Hawkins coming on to talk with us shortly. And Joanne is the founder of Executive VA. She's also founded the Northern VA Conference, and she knows a huge amount about growing your VA business and working with associates at a very high level. And so I'm really looking forward to chatting with Joanne about how she did that and what she thinks VAs can do to enable them to grow their businesses in such a way. So let's hop off and get Joanne. Welcome, Joanne, to Virtually Amazing, the podcast for virtual assistants. We're really thrilled to have you with us. And tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, what your business does, and then we've got a few questions for you.
Okay, great. So I'm Joanne Hawkins, and I'm founder of Executive VPA. Started back in February 2012, so we've just celebrated 8 years.
Wow.
I came from originally a house building background. I'd been there for probably about 4 years, but before that we lived in Spain. We have our house in southern Spain. So I wanted to set up the business because, well, for a number of reasons, and we might get into that later, but initially it was to have something that I could pick up and take away if I wanted to go to Spain, and I could use all my experience and expertise from the 20 odd years before that to actually pick up and run a virtual business from wherever I wanted to, especially from Spain. So that was really one of the main reasons for setting up as a VA business. I had a little bit of an idea of what the industry was for, but it was literally only from about the October, November of the year before, and I hadn't even heard of it before then. But I thought, why not? I felt at the time, because I was in house building, we'd been hit quite badly with the recession in 2008, and pretty early. And it made me think that the people that were employed, how I knew how hard in that industry and sector they were having to work, and they got holiday pay, sick pay, redundancy pay, maternity pay. And it really made me feel what are entrepreneurs and business owners feeling like when they haven't got all that support in the background. How hard are they working? And what can I do with my experience to make it easier for them to run successful businesses? So that's where it came from.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because when I moved from being an employed trainer for a training company to go freelance, because I started out as just a freelance trainer before I built up a training business, and I was an associate trainer for other training companies. And then I got busy, and a couple of trainers that were employed approached me and said, you're always busy, you must be doing really well, how is it? And I said, well, can I do it? I said, well, you can do it, but are you prepared to work the hours, take every job that comes along at the beginning, because that's what you do, and you've got no holiday pay, no sick pay, no leave, no work, no pay. So if you can't deal with that uncertainty and that roller coaster, then it's not for you. In fact, the person that asked me did not jump. She needed that security.
Yeah.
So I totally get that.
Yeah.
So why did you, Joe Brianti, two Joes, Joe B, why did you start? What made you start?
Well, I'm slightly different in that I have been freelance for the majority of my working career. I then had some PAYE work. Then I had twins. So I took some time out, went back to work when they were about 18 months old, but it really wasn't working with the commute. I was commuting an hour and a half each way. I was spending time with the children, and I was just burning out. I took some time out after serious illness, and it just wasn't working. It really, really wasn't working. And then my childcare collapsed overnight, and I had sort of just a void where I couldn't work. So I finished that contract virtually and thought, you know what, let's go for it. It's time to do something. And that's how I ended up in this guise of sort of my self-employment journey. And it's evolved over that period of time. It's a bit like Joanne was saying, you know, and you were saying, you take on those jobs and it evolves now.
Yeah. So Joanne, when you set up, were you successful straight away? Did you get lots of clients? Was it a slow build?
No, definitely a slow build. I was in a quite a fortunate position. The house builder that I was working for, there was a very specific area of the business that I specialised and worked with, and it was around the freehold disposals and management company setup and maintenance, really. And when I went to move, there was nobody else that did that. Obviously, it had been decimated by the recession, so there was nobody that had stepped in to take that. Nobody really wanted it because it's that tail end of, you know, we just want to build and sell houses. Nobody really wanted to do all of that boring management stuff. So I approached my boss at the time, the operations director, and said, you know, I am going to leave and do this, but there is really only me that does this side of it, so I can provide that on a consultancy basis. So I kind of had my first client in the bag before I left, and I was really fortunate to keep them for probably a good 5 years, I'd say, good 4 to 5 years. And so many things then I had to throw myself into. When I left there, I gave them a good month's notice, but when I left, I had to throw myself into networking, which was totally out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
The thought of walking up to somebody and shaking their hand and saying, hi, my name's Joanne, what do you do? I still get that feeling in the pit of my stomach, and I just couldn't do it for about 2 years. It took me a long time, but I did network everywhere, and as uncomfortable as it was, I did it because I knew that I had to get my face out there. And it was so difficult to explain to people what is a virtual assistant and what can they do for you. In the beginning, it was very much about what can we do. And I've learned over time that it's not actually about talking about what can I do and moving away from that transactional side to talk about benefits and to become a crucial part of their management team and their business. But it took a long time. Lots of things took a long time, outsourcing my own things. It must have, in the beginning, took me about 2 days to write a blog, I swear, a whole 2-3 days. And I thought, I was stressing, I thought, I can't do it. And in the end, I thought, I just need to outsource it to somebody that can do it. But actually doing that and taking that amount of time really put me in the shoes of what my clients must be going through.
Yes.
They've taken so long to build this little baby of a business that's theirs. How difficult is that? So I had that experience of understanding what does that feel like and what does that look like to have a fear of outsourcing. And that kind of flicked a switch for me, really, that made me look at things from a different point of view and really just putting myself out there, building a reputation, speaking, being present in the community really made a difference, and that's where the business went from strength to strength then.
Yeah. So how did you come to start working with associates, and how did you manage to grow to be a bigger VA business?
Back in 2014, I attended a conference in the Northeast with Angela Dawson, and I loved the idea of having a conference in your local area. So I decided in 2014, I think, did we have the first one? Yeah. 15, we had the first one in the Northwest. And I started to get to know other VAs that were in the Northwest and connected with them through a brilliant little group called the Northwest VA Hub, as it was then. I think it might still be now, run by a couple of lovely ladies, and just introduced slowly bits and pieces of saying, oh, I've got a little bit of extra work that I haven't got time to do. Could you do this? Or it's not my skill set. So I very slowly started to introduce an element of associate support. And then through the conference, that's enabled me to grow that network of associates. So they're all really, the majority of them are people that I've met and that I've met either at the conference, or I've met down at the PA show in London, or we've met through the VA hub, and lots of different elements. And by me going out and growing my reputation, it's attracted more VAs to come to me and say, I believe you do this and I believe you take on associates. I mean, we have a quite a clear path for them to come in and work with us. Either we go and source them directly, or we have a list of preferred associates that we'll work with initially. But really, just from actually being out there and having a little bit of work here and there to do, I've tested associates out and seeing what their skill set is and trying to build a relationship with them, and kind of grow that, a tribe, I suppose we're calling it now, a tribe of associates that I trust and they trust me.
Yeah. What kind of skills do you look for? I mean, I'm not a VA, obviously, but if I was a VA and I came to you and I say, Joanne, have you got any work for me? What would you be saying to me? What would you be looking for from me to work with you?
So we get all of the basic things. We all go through all the basic questions, like, are you ICO registered? Do you have insurance? What kind of work have you done before? Can you share some examples of what you've done, especially if it's, you know, maybe more intricate things like transcription, or we'll look at their social media and see what their what their ethics are really, and how they share, because relationship for me, either with a client or with an associate, is really, really important. And I do believe that should be the foundation of anything that we do, because it's really difficult to work with somebody else and trust somebody else on a client level as well. So I've tried to mirror both of those things really.
Yeah.
So if it's very specific, I mean, we have some random requests from clients. We've recently done some car boot measurements for a client that's building a website. So we had two VAs, one VA that was doing desktop research of the item that needs to go in a car boot, and then somebody else actually going out and, before the coronavirus obviously, was physically measuring car boots and
wow,
inputting all that data for them. So, you know, we have to kind of get along, and
yeah,
they have to be on the same wavelength as me. And I don't tend to work with a lot of associates that are outside of my area. And that's not intentional. It's literally just because I think it's really because I run the Northwest VA conference, so they get to know me and I get to know them and their personality. And do we get along, and do we have a good relationship, and do I see them as being part of my team? Because ultimately, that is what I share, and that is my brand. That they are a crucial part of my team.
Yeah. Great. Jo, do you want to jump in and ask Joanne anything?
Well, I was just wondering, do you sort of go through any process of assessment with your associates? I know you said that you check for their sort of compliance with ICO and that sort of thing. Do you go through any sort of assessment, or is it purely just on, meeting them and, that sort of thing? And do you recruit them in before you've got the work, or do you go to market for an associate as a piece of work comes in?
We do have a list of ones that we've spoken to before, and a lot of the ladies that we use, and they are all ladies at the moment, but a lot of the ladies that we use have done something for us before. Right. Yeah. They're kind of on a bit of a preferred list. Right. Yeah. And I do a lot of mentoring with VAs as well, and I'm expanding the product and programs that I can provide for them through Get It Done sessions, and we're going to be doing lots of other things. So there's an element of kind of come along and be a part of that tribe. So there are people that, like I say, we've used, but you know what? We don't really do a lot of assessments, and I know that quite a few VAs do that, and that is a way. But I think for me, that it's been more important. I've never really had an issue with anybody that has done a rubbish piece of work, or because we do have that good relationship, that it is then easy for me to go back and say, oh, you know, I had to have a look at it, and, you know, it didn't quite, you know, it probably took me longer, or, and the majority, well, all of my associates have access to the clients. So they all have a one-to-one relationship with them as well. And touch wood, I haven't had any problems with that either. So I make the client aware that we have associates, and it won't always be me, because I can't do everything. I'm not an expert in everything, as they are, which is again part of that relationship building. So I make sure the client knows, and the client has access to the associate, because if everything had to come through me, I'd never get anything else done. So we make sure that whole, everything is relationship driven.
And is it, sorry, Shelley.
No, go on. You're a VA. You ask the question.
Sort of an established contract process with your associates as well. You know, with you sort of saying about touch wood, you've not had any problems between the associate and the client. You have processes to manage all of that.
Yeah, definitely. And I have a good team. My daughter works alongside me as well, so she manages some of that. But I also have a VA that acts as my VA when I need that as well. And she's gone through the whole process of, she's the one that does the initial calls to find out exactly what do they like doing, what are their skills, what are their expertise, and do all of those compliance checks. So then there's always, it's never just always me. There is a very close team of us that, you know, somebody that does the social media, someone that does the blogging, but they're all part of that EVPA team, and that's very, very important to me as well.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I used to work similarly with my associate trainers when I had the training surgery. I would usually work with trainers who I knew. We'd all been associates at other companies, so I knew them from there. I knew that we all trained in the same way, so we all had a similar style. And that was very important. And also I was very, very keen that they had the relationship with the client, because, as you say, you just can't be the one that filters everything. Your inbox would never be under control ever, and things would get lost. Now, I noticed that you're an accredited trainer as well, aren't you, with the Society of SVA, Society of Virtual Assistants. And as a trainer, being accredited and having accreditations and giving accredit is really important. Why do you feel for VAs that it's really important to have an accreditation or go through that process?
This is a bit of a sticky one.
Sticky wicket.
It is really, because even though I am accredited with Society of Virtual Assistants for the training side, I'm not a massive one for thinking that a VA has to be accredited, because I feel that, and I'm probably contradicting myself with being accredited with SVA, but I feel that it's a kind of, it's a one route, and you're accredited by somebody that may think that you run a business a different way than they should run theirs. I think the compliance side is completely different, and I do believe that a VA should probably have insurance, should be protected by ICO. If you have anything to do with any bookkeeping, then you need to make sure that you're registered with MLR, or you comply with the regulations, especially the changes that they got made last year for virtual assistants. So I think those compliance elements are very, very important. For the way that I run my business and the way that I market myself, interact with my clients, interact with my associates, I don't feel like I need somebody to tell me that's good enough to be accredited. So it doesn't make a difference for me if associates are accredited or not. I would never accredit anybody, because same way that I would never look at franchising my business, or because I feel that executive VPA is unique, and I don't think that I could replicate that and I can never get anybody to be Joanne and to do Joanne. So probably very much the same, that I think it's a very, very unique thing to be a VA, and I'm not sure that I would feel comfortable thinking that somebody was saying I needed to run my business or do something a certain way.
I think didn't ask a good question.
Oh,
I think
sorry.
I phrased the question wrong. I think that when you are an accredited training provider, it means that somebody has looked at what you provide as a trainer and said that it's really top notch. And I think that if somebody can say they've undertaken training by an accredited trainer, it shows that they're investing in themselves and that they're taking their job seriously. So I think that's what I was getting at. So I didn't ask the right question. So,
yes, I think that is great. Yeah, and for associates that can work with me and to do my mentoring sessions or anything like that, it's great for them to say, oh, and I would love that. I would love people to say, oh, I was mentored by Joanne Hawkins, and and because of that, I went on to be one of her preferred associates.
Yeah, exactly.
Ultimately, that is really where I'd love to be, and I do want to get to that stage. And
I'm sure you will.
During lockdown, I'm working a lot on products and packages and how I can support VAs more. So this has given me every silver, every cloud, silver lining and all that. It has given me the opportunity to really look at that and see, actually, where do I want to support VAs and how do I want the industry to grow with ultimately getting top-notch associates and providing our clients with the best service they can.
And I think also what's happening during the time of Corona is that a lot of businesses who perhaps thought they couldn't outsource remotely or couldn't work remotely are discovering that, hey, it's not so terrible. We can do this. We can cut down our operating expenses. We can, even if we provide a laptop and a broadband connection and a desk to somebody in their home, it's still cheaper than an office.
Exactly.
So I think that's going to be a change. Maybe not overnight, but
I think
there will be a change.
And we wrote an article about this last week about being consciously aware. I think it's a really great time for businesses to, obviously businesses are aware of what is going on financially for their businesses and they're thinking about what it might look like on the other side.
Yeah.
Being consciously aware of how did we work before? What are we actually doing now and how are we getting the best from people, and can we carry on some of that to be more financially stable, to be more productive, to be more financially efficient? That it's now time for businesses to take that step back while we're in this strange time to say, actually, and we're already starting to talk to businesses that are saying, I'm not quite sure that I'm going to take back the same amount of staff that I did. We're probably going to look at outsourcing. How do we use OneNote? How do we use all these different things? And obviously, you're an expert in that. But how do we do all of this so that people can continue to work from home? So we're really putting it out to businesses to be consciously aware of what you're doing at the moment, and it will change. And it should be a great time over the next probably 12 to 18 months to see a big rise in VA work and the amount of VAs that can service clients. But going back to your very, very original point that you said about wanting to set up, I get approached by a lot of people, especially now receptionists and people like that, saying, I think I'm going to look at doing something virtually. I'm going to come out of it. The key is to understand the business element of that. It's not like being a PA in an office and having support and account support and all of that and having holiday pay. Running a business, this is probably the hardest that I've ever worked in and I'm nearly 50, and it's the hardest I've worked in my whole life, because running a business is different than just being a VA.
Yeah, absolutely. And those new aspiring people that are coming to you and saying, I want to be a VA, because there must be a lot more of those coming now, people who unfortunately are maybe thinking that they won't have a job to go back to or whatever. So have you got any advice or tips for somebody that's starting to think about it as a career move?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, speak to as many VAs as they possibly can do that are, and I always kind of categorise VAs maybe in two camps. That I think we have VAs that first and foremost see themselves as a business owner, which is what I do, and I just happen to provide all of those operational transactional services. Or you have VAs that want to be a VA, and they just happen to have a business because they've got to promote themselves, and people want them to have insurance and, you know, a proper phone number and a website and things like that. So identify really what it is actually that you want to do. Do you want to see a business owner because that is way more work than being a VA that maybe wants to stay at home and work so many hours a week around maybe family commitments. And both of them, there is no right or wrong.
No.
But really look at what life blend do you want, what do you actually want to get out of it. If you think it's an easier job than being a PA, probably not. Not unless you want to be, you know, if you want to be a VA and maybe an associate VA and work closely with somebody and, you know, have work for a couple of hours a day, or market yourself and, you know, you don't want to earn a massive amount of money. It's really differentiating about what actually is it that you want to get out of it. Why do you want to be a VA? And what is your perception of the VA world? So talk to lots of different VAs and maybe some VA trainers and some obviously brilliant ones out there. Talk to them and say, what actually is it like running a VA business? It's not about transactional tasks. It's about being a part of somebody's business, about marketing their business and marketing your business, how you build a relationship with them. But that very first thing has got to be about, why do you actually want to do it? And what do you think it is?
That's brilliant, because I was looking at your website before, as all good, you know, podcast hosts do, have to investigate their guests. And you've got 3 whys on your website, which I thought was really interesting. And I'm going to go away and think about putting some whys on my website, actually. So, that's great.
Why, and that is one of the questions, isn't it? And Simon Sinek TED Talk is you know, blows it out of the water. But, you know, why, and a client came up with that why of the work, home and you. It's all encompassing. Running a VA business is all encompassing. There isn't, you know, you've got to be really strict with yourself if you have time off and you go on holiday and you don't open your emails. And I probably only got to year 6 when I didn't do that. And I didn't open my emails on holiday, only because I had Pam there but she would still say, can I ring you 2 or 3 times just to check I'm doing everything right? But that, having that why, and why do you want to wake up every day and do this? Thankfully, after 8 years, I still have that. I want to wake up and do this every single day. And that's really, really important. Yeah,
totally. What's your why, Jo?
My whys, I've got 2 whys. I had one why when I started the business. She was called Maya and she was 3. She was my granddaughter. And now I have a grandson who is 5. So they are totally my whys, because I get to do this so that my daughter works with me as well. But I get to do this so that I can not work on a Friday afternoon when we go to the Jungle Play Centre, and because I can go on holiday with them and I can pay for the things that I can treat them. And my whole focus has been about, they're really, really important to me. And I want Naomi to have a life where she can do the same things and go to their sports days and things like that. And totally about having, it's all built around my family and what I want to do. I want to be successful, and I'd like to be the go-to VA for VAs in the Northwest specifically. I want to run the best conference for VAs that I can do in the country. But I want everything to be around building it for them and whatever they need. That's it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. What about you, Jo B? What's your why? Sorry.
I have 2 boys, 12 years old, and it was the collapse of their childcare that prompted me into this. And over my period of time of working in the way I've done as a VA, having that freedom to go to the sports day, the parents' evening, take the Friday afternoon off to pick them up from school and go for pancakes has been absolutely brilliant. And it's really, really challenging, and I need challenge. I am a mum, that's hugely important, but I still need a challenge, and I still have goals that I want to achieve in my life, and my business fills those goals. And also there's a challenge about going into somebody else's business and making that better so that they then become successful. And then I feel successful when somebody comes back to me and says, do you know, that system that you put in place for me has doubled my business. And I had a client do that recently, and that's amazing. That's amazing. They've doubled their business because of a few hours of my time. That's a real buzz from that.
Yeah. Well, I suppose I should say my why now, as I'm dishing out the whys.
Absolutely.
Well, I recently semi-retired. I'm a lot older than both of you, and I'm moved abroad. I moved to Israel in October of last year, and I have grandchildren here. I have a granddaughter in America, a granddaughter in England. We have 2 more on the way, one in America, one in England, with 5 here. And for me, it's about being able to help VAs get more done in less time. That's my tagline. Because over the long time, I've been in business since 2002. So over all that time, I've worked a lot with PAs, executive assistants and VAs, and realized that when they don't know how to use everyday Microsoft Office tools, it's taking them 2, 3 times as long to get something done as it needs to. And there are shortcuts, there are different ways of doing things. And I still remember, it still gives me goosebumps, having somebody in a 1-hour session where I taught her how to use styles in Word, something really basic. But not only that, I taught her how to create a template and apply a template to a document. She was in the NHS. She had to pull in reports from all sorts of researchers about a medicine, and everybody did it in their own way. And she then had to make it conform to the NHS template. When I showed her how to create styles and apply those styles, to apply that template to those documents, she almost burst into tears, because she said the job used to take her nearly a whole day, just reformatting all these different reports, and it was cut down to about an hour and a half. And I'm still getting goosebumps thinking about it. And there's a few other examples along the way, but that's kind of my why, is helping people be more productive so that they've got more time and can get more done as well. And I'm a bit nerdy. I like my tech. I like playing with my software and just trying to break it and seeing if there's a better way of doing it. So that's my why. And at the moment we can't go anywhere, but when the weather's nice, we live by the seaside, so we can go for a walk along the promenade, and it's fabulous. Wow. And that's a big why too. And I've wanted to live here for a very long time, so that's another why. So there we go, lots of whys. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Jo B, have you got any other questions for Joanne?
No, it's been a really illuminating, and do you know, for a long time, Joanne Hawkins has been a name on the circuit, and you know, I've always known you attached to the Northwest Conference. I've never got up there, so it's been a real joy to meet you, even if it's by Zoom and not in person. It's been really lovely to meet you.
Lovely. Thank you very much. And always, I think still, whenever either somebody says to me, oh, someone said that I need to speak to you, I still think, why? Just me? Why me? Thank you very much. That's very nice. Thank you.
No, it's lovely. And we met at the PA show back in February, just before all of this Corona stuff cropped up, and I was there speaking, and you were there. Were you speaking as well? I think you were.
I was on I did 2 panels.
I knew you were doing something, and we have a mutual friend, Annabelle, who's going to be on the podcast later in the week as well. So we're using this time of lockdown to get some episodes recorded and ready to go out on a weekly schedule later on. So it's all good fun. And thank you ever so much. And maybe we'll speak again later in the year.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, lovely.
Okay.
To do it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Jo.
All right, take care.
Take care. Let the camera find me. Okay, there we go. Well, Jo, wasn't that a fabulous interview with Joanne Hawkins?
Brilliant. It was lovely. That's the first time I've met Jo, as I say, but I've seen her name and lots about the Northwest VA conference. Sad that it's cancelled for this year, but like with all of these big events, we're COVID and, you know, connection free this year.
Yeah, but they are taking some of it online, so I think that's going to be a really cool event once they start to advertise that. But there was so much learning in there for me. I loved us chatting about our whys. That was my favourite bit of the session. But we were talking to Joanne about, about growing your VA business. Yeah. And then we've just been chatting off air before we came back to finish up about what tools, because we need to have a tool tip of the week, what kind of tools can you use to help you grow your VA business? But that's kind of how, if you're building a team, what can you use for communication, making sure you've all got the right documents, you've all got access to the same templates, you can chat to each other, you can message each other, you've got task assignments and all that kind of stuff. How do you manage all of that? So what tools have you used in the past? And then, of course, you're going to hear from me about the ones that I know.
Well, I've used a wide variety of tools. Some are dictated by your client. If you're an associate, some will be decided by your lead VA. As examples, I've worked with people who've preferred Trello. I've worked with people who've preferred to use Microsoft Project. That's an area that I have expertise in. But I've also used Trello. I've also used Pipedrive. And there's also integrated systems such as Monday, where task management and communication are all interlinked. Each of these tools has their pluses and minuses. So as an example, if you're using Asana, that's great for managing your tasks, sharing tasks out, but it's more difficult to have that communication element. So you need to look at something like WhatsApp or Slack or emails, and then possibly you're looking at sort of different streams of communication, and you need to understand a process and how you're going to integrate all of that so that you're not missing different streams. So there are tools out there where they started to build those kind of all integrated ones, and of course you know the top one of those.
Yep, Microsoft Teams. I talk about it a lot.
Yes.
And it's become much more popular in the last couple of months, obviously, because of COVID-19. But before that, I was training that into large organizations. So it's evolving from being a corporate tool to being a tool that anybody can use. Yeah. And I think that's a great thing. So if you're a corporate and you're working, or maybe you're a VA working with a corporate, because some of the corporates do use outsourced VA services. So with a team, you create a team, and it could be project-based, it could be task-based, it could be department-based. Really, it's whatever you can imagine. A team will be made up of channels for communication. So think of those as your communication channels. So think of your team as the building, the office, and the channels are the different floors in the building, or the different rooms, or the different departments. And then within each channel, you've got a posts area. So that's for messaging and chat generally with everybody in the team. So that's like having a department meeting ongoing all the time. You can have group meetings, you can have video meetings, chat meetings, you can turn a chat into a video, you can share your screen like we do on Zoom. And it does all of those things. But the icing on the cake for me is there's also a files section. And there we can store all the files that we need to work on together. It could be all the templates that we want everyone to have access to, or it could be all sorts of other documents that people need. And because it's in the channel, everybody else has access to it, which is fantastic. You haven't got to start sharing it and giving permission and doing any of that. On top of all of that, there's a whole host of extra applications that you can add to a channel or to a team, which can enhance the experience, like Planner and tasks tasks and planner are about to combine, and I forget for the minute what the new one's going to be called, something in between. And there's all sorts of things. You can add a whiteboard, you can actually even add Zoom inside of Teams if you really wanted to. So it's hugely powerful. And I use it in two ways. I use it with you, Jo, because we manage the podcast. Yeah. We've mentioned it before. So we have a team for the podcast. It's in Tomorrow's VA. So Jo is a guest user at Tomorrow's VA. Jo has access to everything in there. We communicate via the posts. Yep. And all the files, our guest list is in there, our plans are in there, all our recordings end up in there. So everything is in one place, and we can both access whatever we need. When we're prepping for an episode, we'll put some questions in there. Who's going to ask which questions? What do we want to talk about? It's all in the team. And then if we need to get together in between times, we can get together inside Teams to have that meeting and chat about it. So I think that's enough banging on. People know I'm banging on about Teams and that I've got courses on Teams, but you can go and look for those on the website. But I think it's a great tool. What it does is it takes all that different communications in one place, as you were saying before, Jo. So before, we might have emailed, we might have WhatsApped, we might have spoken on the phone. Here it's all in one place. What's not to like?
It's very easy to, if you're not focused with one or possibly two channels for communication, it's very easy to miss things, especially as you're growing your business and you may have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 associates working for you. You need a streamline, and you need to enable your team to be communicating together and supervising that as the team manager, in exactly the same way as if you were in the corporate environment running a team.
Exactly, and that's what Teams does enable. And I think there's a lot of angst out there as far as Teams and Zoom are concerned. So people are saying, well, I can do all my training in Zoom, and I've got breakout rooms, and I've got whiteboards, and I've got this, that, and the other. And all of a sudden, they want to use that, replicate that in Teams, and you can. You can replicate most of it in Teams, but Teams was not built like Zoom for webinars and those kind of meetings. It's basically a corporate tool that's become adapted, but it does a heck of a lot. And you can replicate some of that. So breakout rooms, you could create other channels where you get people to leave the main meeting channel and go into another meeting to do some group work in there. So it is possible to replicate that. But they are two distinct animals, and they've been built for different purposes. And I think that's, people get confused about that because they think they should be the same, but they're not. They're not, because Zoom doesn't do half of the other stuff that Teams does. Although I love both. I have to say I do like both. The same as I love my Mac and I love my Windows laptop. So there you go. Ambidextrous.
Courses for courses. The right tool for the right job at the right time.
Exactly. That's actually what Tristan was saying when we interviewed him the other week, wasn't he? He was saying, if you're going to buy a new computer, don't go for the shiny and get the one that everybody says. Get the one that's going to work for the way that you work. And I think that's really important to think about too. You know, when we interviewed Simon about websites, he was also talking about how much of a learning curve do you want working with any new system. And of course, there's always going to be a learning curve for everything. I mean, that's why I'm in business anyway. But you want the learning curve to be as easy as possible and as flat as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think that's enough for today. It's been a super session. I've got lots of things to think about from some of the things that Joanne said.
Yes.
And it's just been such fun today.
Yes, brilliant. Some great sessions today, and great information from Jo.
Yeah. What's on your agenda when we go off air? What are you up to next?
The first thing I'm going to be doing is going to have a cup of tea. I'm going to have some just quiet time with a cup of tea, and then I'm afraid my desk looks like a bomb has hit it. So I'm going to tidy that up, do my planning for tomorrow, which I always do at the end of the day, and then that's it for the day.
Yeah, I'm 2 hours ahead of you, so it's just gone 5 o'clock here. So yeah. I'm going to have a cup of tea. The weather's quite nice. So I'm hoping that it'll be warm enough to sit out on the balcony and look at the sea. So that's my plan for this afternoon. And then tomorrow I'm going to be back at editing all these podcasts.
Excellent. Take care of yourself this evening, and we'll speak again tomorrow.
We'll speak tomorrow. Bye, Jo.
Bye. There you go.
You've been listening to Virtually Amazing, the podcast for virtual assistants with Shelley Fishel and Jo Brianti. We look forward to seeing you or hearing you or you hearing us in the next episode, which is coming very soon.